I don't think I've ever seen a team as inconsistent as Chelsea. They have a lot of talent, but also some glaring problems in pretty much every single player. Let's start with the goalkeeper, Robert Sanchez. Listen, he's had some great moments throughout the season. In fact, he was in such a good run of form that I felt like he had enough credit in the bank where we wouldn't have to talk about him in a negative light. But the reality is, this guy will always be some sort of a liability throughout an entire season. Yes, there will be periods where he's going to be fantastic, like his performance against Arsenal and against Barcelona. But across a season, across an entire year, there are just going to be way too many times where he's going to cost you a game. And he does it in all departments. I would say his glaring weakness / problem is his decision making. Sometimes he comes out when he should have just stood on his line. Other times he tries to punch the ball when he should have caught it. It all falls under the same umbrella of decision making. The problem is there's other times where it has nothing to do with his decision making. He just made a shot stopping error, like punching a ball into his net when it should have been an easy save, diving the wrong way. So he's a great goalie at his best. But how often has Chelsea really seen him play at that level? Again, I think he is a good goalie, and I'm not saying that he hasn't had periods, months, where he's been essential to the Blues. I mean, again, he's a good shot stopper at his best. He's very good with the ball at his feet. But how often are you seeing that? And more importantly, are those good performances enough to justify the bonehead mistakes that he makes on other given occasions? Now, the concept of inconsistency is something I want you guys to keep in mind, because you can put the entire Chelsea team under the umbrella of this in terms of problems. So just keep in mind, because for a lot of players, that seems to be their biggest issue. Inconsistency and inexperience. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. Then we get to Malo Gusto. Now again, his glaring weakness / problem is inconsistency. There are times where he looks like French Cafu. He's good going forward, almost like an extra midfielder with how good he is on the ball. He inverts in, he overlaps, then defensively he's a rock. Again, the highest of highs is followed by the lowest of lows. In other games, he can't defend a pylon. He's ball watching, getting beaten in the back post. So I'm not sure what to make of this guy. Just like the rest of the Chelsea team, he's inconsistent. Sometimes he checks off all the boxes that you're looking for a modern fullback. Other times it feels like Chelsea's playing with 10 men. Then we move over to the left back spot. Now for Cucurella, I would say that his strength can sometimes be his weakness, and that's his aggression. There's many games where his aggression allows him to get the best of the opposition right winger. That's what he did against Lamine Yamal, that's what he's done against Salah. But sometimes wingers are able to use that aggression to their advantage, like what Bukayo Saka did, using his body and Cucurella's aggression to turn him and then whip it across for Arsenal's goal. How Cucurella defends also completely depends on the referee. If he's letting the game slide and letting it be physical, Cucurella is fine. He can be that annoying nuisance that he is at left back. But if the ref is blowing a soft whistle and he's not letting anything fly, Cucurella is put in a bad position, because now he can't get physical with the opposition winger. He can't be all over him. And when that happens, he gets exposed. Because the reality is, I think even if you're the biggest Cucurella fan, he's not actually a terrific defender. What he does really well is he uses all of his qualities and plays at 110%. He never takes a night off. Even if he's had a bad performance, like when he slipped twice against Spurs, or some of the other times where he's gotten a little bit exposed on the back post or by an opposition right winger, you can never leave the match saying that Cucurella didn't try his best. And the reason that he plays with 110% effort is exactly why some games and some moments he looks like one of the best left backs in the world. Going forward, he's great. I mean, his decision making can always improve, but I think it's just his liability defensively. Sometimes he's great, he's all over the opposition winger. Other times, if they can figure out that they can put in these back post crosses, they can get somebody tall to dunk on him. In terms of center backs, there's some big problems. And I'm going to put Tosin, Chalobah, and Badiashile all in the same group. All three of them have a glaring problem in that they're not that great on the ball. You see, Maresca's system works to perfection if you have elite center back, or at least center backs who are very good on the ball. For example, Levi Colwill is pretty good on the ball. When Reece James is played in there sometimes, he's excellent on the ball. I would even say Fofana's pretty good on the ball. But the three guys I named, Tosin, Chalobah, Badiashile, these guys are great rotational options, but the ceiling of your team cannot be that high if you're relying on those guys week in, week out. They're just not great on the ball, they're not great under pressure, they're not press resistant, they're not able to consistently break lines with their passing, and that disrupts Chelsea's entire build-up play. They need elite center backs. Like I said, a player like Chalobah is fantastic when you're trying to rotate guys midweek, or you have 4 games in 10 days. He's great, he can step up, great rotational option, but he cannot be your starting center back along with Tosin in a big Champions League match, or even in a big league match. They're great players, but not the truly elite center backs that a club as massive as Chelsea should have, because them playing out of the back is going to constantly cause issues. I mean, we've already seen it this season with Tosin.
Free kick, much to the frustration of the home fans. And then one back in the middle, and it's on the line. Calvert-Lewin
to chase, and Broby might be able to hit this. He's brought it down under control. He hasn't really got support yet. Players arriving now. One of them, Tolby!
They have to be better. Fofana, in my opinion, doesn't have that issue, but his glaring weakness is that he's always injured. I don't like to use health as a weakness because most players can't control that. But for Fofana, that's his biggest issue. I mean, we can't really analyze him that deeply when he hasn't been on the pitch that much. What I can tell you is another weakness of his is he can be too aggressive at times. I saw that a lot towards the back end of his Leicester career and a few times when he has played regularly for Chelsea. But again, when the guy's barely healthy, we can't really scrutinize him too much. I also think he's a much bigger upgrade over some of the other center backs that I listed. Then you have Hato. Now he can play as a center back or right back, and his glaring issue is just inexperience. This is his first real shot at a top flight club. Coming from the Eredivisie to the Premier League is a big jump. So yes, he's going to make mistakes because again, he doesn't have that much experience under his belt. He needs to play more. And I would say it's the same thing for Achampong. I think he's actually a great center back. He just has to play more to get fully adjusted to playing at the elite level that is Premier League football and Champions League football. So then we move into the midfield. Now let's start with Moises Caicedo. Moises Caicedo checks off a lot of boxes. He is an incredible holding midfielder. His glaring issue is that he's too aggressive. And this isn't about getting a red card like he did against Arsenal. Of course, that's part of the issue. But in general, he can be very aggressive. Too aggressive. When you're the sole pivot, you have to have more composure. When you're playing in the center of the park, you can't always be flying into tackles. He's very good at his best, especially when he picks his moments when to be super aggressive and when to just jockey. That's when Caicedo is world class. Because you know that when he lunges into a tackle, he's going to win the ball. He's going to win the duel. It's just about picking the right moments. And I would say that's his only issue right now. Because if you asked me this a year ago, I would have said he needs to add goals to his game even as a holding midfielder. And he's done that. He can score a banger. Then I would have said that his passing needs to improve. Well, he's improved in that department as well. He's breaking more lines. He's playing these wonderful long balls. He's picking out the striker in behind from the center of the park. These were areas that were his limitations before. But now the only thing that he has to do is just be more composed. We're not saying don't be aggressive. Chelsea need that sort of aggression and almost hostility in the center of the park. All the great Chelsea teams had players like this. Makelele and N'Golo Kante. Don't be fooled by Kante's smile. That guy was an aggressive demon. Caicedo is the same thing. This is why he can lock down the opposition's best central midfielder. But he is his own worst enemy. He took himself out of that Arsenal game. And he's done it before, just without a red card. There's been other times in the game where he's just been too aggressive and they can bypass the midfield. So if he can pick and choose his moments more, he's going to be fantastic because he's already established himself as one of the best pivots out there. Then we have Reece James, and we all know that Reece James' only issue has been injuries. He has no glaring weakness in his game. I mean, the guy is so complete that when he was right back, he was one of the best right backs in the world. And then he went into midfield and he single-handedly ended the Caicedo versus Rice debate. Everybody in the media was talking about those two, and Reece James is like, yeah, actually, I'm a better midfielder than both of them. So he doesn't have any glaring issues. No real weaknesses in his game. He's fast, he's strong. I'm glazing him enough. He just has to stay healthy. Then we move on to Enzo Fernandez. For me, with Enzo Fernandez, it would be his athleticism. I'm not saying he's unathletic. In fact, he's actually looked a lot better since his hernia surgery. He's not the most athletic guy. Again, that doesn't mean he's not aggressive. That doesn't mean he doesn't win duels and cover ground. But against more physical midfields, against more athletic guys, he's not as athletic as them. Now, that hasn't been as much of an issue lately because of the fact that Maresca for a while now has pushed him further off. So when he's playing in that number 10 role, he's perfectly fine. He doesn't need to be the fastest guy or cover ground super quickly. But when he was playing as one of the pivots, next to Caicedo, that athleticism is required. The game has become more and more physical. Sure, if he played for Real Madrid or Barcelona where he could play as a deep line playmaker and just ping the ball around, it wouldn't be an issue. But Chelsea don't always play like that. If you're going to be a pivot in the Premier League, you have to be able to move. And again, he's gotten much better since his surgery and being injury-free. He's never going to just snap his fingers and then automatically become this super fast, strong guy. He's very aggressive. He's got that South American hostility in his game, which is fantastic. Again, Chelsea need that edge. But if I had to be nitpicky and find a weakness with him, I would say it's his athleticism. Another midfielder is Andre Santos. For this guy, I would just say inexperience is his weakness. He hasn't gotten enough opportunities. He hasn't played that much first team football, at least not for Chelsea. So he has a lot of potential, a lot of great qualities. He just has to play more. Because he is aggressive in duels, he's good on the ball. Yes, he's not as good as Moises Caicedo, but he doesn't have to be. He can play next to him. So hopefully we see Maresca have more faith in this guy and play him, because it's tough to analyze him at a high level when he really hasn't played that much football. And then of course we have Lavia, and you all know what his weakness is. He can never be healthy. It's a shame because we'll never see what a prime Lavia looks like. He comes back, has 2 or 3 good games, and then he's back on the injury table. But that's his biggest weakness. And then we have Cole Palmer. I'll count him as a midfielder because he does play in that number 10 role. Honestly, I was going to say his weakness is that he's just dumb as rocks outside of the pitch. I mean, how do you get injured banging your foot playing FIFA?
Messi, Ronaldo! Messi, Ronaldo! Messi! 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 Goal! 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 Messi! Messi! Messi!
We can be nitpicky and say it's his right foot. We can say that his decision making at times could be better. But the reality is Palmer's the full package. The only thing that has hindered his development has been injuries. And then last year he didn't have a number 9. So again, it's not surprising that his worst run of form came when Nicholas Jackson was unavailable. As soon as he got a good striker in front of him, well, we saw what he did at the Club World Cup. Of course, there's other elements of his game that he can do better. He can be more lethal in front of goal. But it's not really that big of a weakness. Like I said, if I'm being nitpicky, it's his work rate off the ball and it's his right foot. And if you really want to scrutinize him, maybe you want to see more goals and assists, especially after the numbers that we've seen him put up before. But again, he's not an issue. Players like him, Reece James, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, they don't really have a glaring weakness or problem that's going to cost the team. Sure, everybody can get better, but these guys are the core of that Chelsea team. It's more players like Garnacho that have a bigger weakness. You see, all of Chelsea's wingers pretty much suffer from the same weakness. Decision making. It's exactly what leads to all of them being inconsistent. So Garnacho, he's the king of inconsistency. Sometimes he looks wonderful. Other times you question why he's on the pitch. Now, I've stated this before. He's in an environment at Chelsea where it's perfect for him. If he has a bad game, Jamie Gins will come on. If he has a good game, great. You just help Chelsea win a match. But if Chelsea loses and he doesn't play great, he's never going to get the blame because there's so many other players that Chelsea actually rely on. Garnacho is just asked to run at his fullback to try and make things happen. The problem is sometimes he can't do it, but a lot of times he's just looking busy out there. He's mastered that art. The art of looking busy as a winger. You see him running at players and dribbling, you're like, oh my god, it's only a matter of time. He's going to create an opportunity. And some games he does. Some games he'll cut inside and he'll bang one in. Or he'll take you to the end line and cut it back to someone for an assist. But there's a lot of times where the first pass just never makes it past the right back. And that's his issue, inconsistency. But again, he's a young player. Remember that umbrella I told you guys about. There's a lot of players on this team that suffer from inconsistency and inexperience, and I think the two of them go hand in hand. Now, Garnacho has more experience at the top flight than other wingers, but he's still a very young player. And for me, any years that you spend at Manchester United, they don't really count towards your development because I swear those guys coach the football out of you. So as much as I'm not the biggest Garnacho fan, we do have to give him time because when he is good, he looks very good. You just want to see it on a more consistent basis. It's the same thing as Jamie Gins. Sometimes he cuts in and he puts the top bins and you're like, oh my god, that's the guy that Chelsea expected when they signed him from Borussia Dortmund. Other times he's just doing the Sancho where his feet are moving very quickly, but he's not actually going anywhere. But he's a young winger. This is his first season with Chelsea, first season in the Premier League. There's going to be an adjustment period. In my opinion, his ceiling is much higher than Garnacho's. But again, the beauty of it is that these guys can rotate. Whenever one of them has a bad game, no problem. You get subbed out, and Maresca puts in fresh legs. Then Pedro Neto on the other side, his issue is decision making as well. He's very fast, he's got a great engine, he's up and down the wing all the time, but sometimes this guy gets tunnel vision. You know how horses in racing, they put those blinders next to them so they just sprint straight? Yeah, that's Pedro Neto sometimes. He's a great player, and again, on his day, he's one of those guys that can cause a lot of damage. In fact, ever since the Club World Cup, he's been terrific. And Chelsea have done a great job of keeping him healthy, which was one of his glaring weaknesses at Wolves. But to me, he still gets too much tunnel vision. He shoots when he should have passed, he dribbles when he should have crossed, and he needs to remove that from his game if he wants to be a consistent top level winger. Because we have seen Chelsea use him everywhere. He's played on the left, he's played on the right, he's played as a false 9. That's Maresca showing that he has faith in the Portuguese man and that he can play in multiple roles, and he can. But to get to that level of consistency, he needs to make better decisions in the attacking third. Now we get to the strikers, and João Pedro, his glaring weakness is this guy needs to be more clinical. He has to finish the opportunities that are given to him. Now I know he's not a natural number 9. He's more of a number 10, number 9 combination. But when this guy can finish the ball, he's the complete package. Because he's already great in the build-up play. He's already a fantastic creator. He can drop deep, help Palmer, help the wingers get involved in the build-up. But when he gets the ball in and around the box, he has to make it count. Right now, they gotta make him 5 chances for him to score 1. And that's just unacceptable. Even if you're not a natural number 9, if you're gonna play up top for Chelsea, you have to be clinical. And it's the one area of his game that he just needs to improve. Everything else is there. He works hard off the ball. He can make more runs in behind, but I think Maresca knows that that's not really his profile. Chelsea are gonna find him in good opportunities. He just has to put the ball in the back of the net. I remember against Spurs, he scored thanks to Caicedo pressing the hell out of those guys. But it took like 7 chances for him to put the ball in the back of the net. Against elite teams, you are not going to get those opportunities. You're not going to get 7 chances to get 1 goal. You're going to get 1 or 2 opportunities, and you better make it count. Now, Liam Delap also suffers from the same thing. He needs to be more consistent in front of goal. But he also needs to, in general, improve his build-up play. Again, he's a young striker, just made a move from a relegation team to a top-level team, so he has time to develop. But right now, there's some times where he holds the ball up really well, other times where it looks like he's trying to wrestle rather than play football. And I think Chelsea fans naturally get frustrated with that. It's good that he wants to fight the opposition center back. That's a unique profile that Chelsea don't have. For example, João Pedro is more of a technical Samba type of guy. He's not really gonna put his elbow into the center backs and try and hold up the play all the time. That's what Liam Delap can do. That's his strength. That he's very strong, he's fast, he's great in behind, he makes those direct in-behind runs. But he needs to be better in the build-up. You need to be able to play to his feet and not worry about his second touch becoming a tackle. And of course, he needs to be more clinical in front of goal. He also needs to not get suspended, but red cards seem to be a common issue among all the players, as well as Enzo Maresca. I mean, we all saw this clip.
Oh, it's a brilliant moment for Maresca. He's been sent off, he won't care about that. Well worth being sent off for. What a celebration. Do with him being bad defensively. They've been shocking on the ball.
Then I forgot to mention Estevao. For him, it's the same thing. He needs more experience. That's his only glaring weakness. Yes, he played at a young age at Palmeiras, but playing in Liga do Brasil is very different than playing in the Premier League, playing in the Champions League. It's good preparation because he's played under immense pressure, but he hasn't played at that elite level with an increase in the game's physicality and speed. And right now you see it. He had an amazing game against Barcelona, but then he couldn't beat anybody against Leeds and Bournemouth. And unfortunately, that's not just an Estevao issue, that's a whole Chelsea issue. Against bigger teams and bigger games, these guys tend to show up, but they lose to the smaller teams. I remember there was this Chelsea fan who went on Sky Sports and everybody was roasting her because she said that she was more afraid of Burnley than she was of Arsenal and Barcelona.
I think we are in competition with ourselves, I think, mostly first and foremost, because we're so inconsistent and we're yet to go on a bit of a run. I think we've had some good results, it's been great, but then we've almost come crashing down with the next game and it's kind of back at square one. I think Burnley at the weekend scares me more than Arsenal and Barcelona coming up, which just sums it all up for you.
And of course, every Chelsea fan knew she was right, and that's exactly what happened. Chelsea did really well against Barcelona, spanking them. They tied Arsenal, and then they went and lost to Leeds, and then they tied Bournemouth. They went from title contenders to barely Champions League contenders in the span of like a week. So it's not just Estevao that needs to gain more experience and more consistency, it's the whole team. And that's the issue with having a young squad. You're gonna get these ups and downs all the time. They need more elite center backs. They need to develop these young guys more so they become more consistent. This Chelsea team has a lot of quality though, and they are capable of doing big things like we saw at the Club World Cup. To see what Maresca's Chelsea look like at their absolute peak, you have to watch this video right here.